I was already holding the actual contacts, but it wouldn't like come out. Like it was literally glued to my eye, as in like I could feel, like, you know how you feel it, like I could like I was pinching the contacts, but it was like really glued, as in like it was going like this. Like I could hold it, but it wasn't coming off of my eye. Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. It has been a hot minute since I last did a video on this channel. I think it has almost been like a month, and that is because I just underwent eye surgery. So I just got LASIK surgery and I had to recover for quite a while. So it's only now that I'm able to regularly post again. As you can see, I'm not even wearing eye makeup right now. This is just basically like foundation and lipstick because my eyes aren't fully recovered yet, so no like rubbing and everything yet. But yeah, I actually wanted to do this video because I wanted to document the process, and also for those who are curious, for those who are considering LASIK surgery, I think this video would be very helpful for you guys. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the entire process of the LASIK surgery. I'm gonna be giving you guys like a brief history of my eyes first, like how I ended up deciding to finally undergo the procedure, and then I'm going to be talking about the process afterwards, which include like the booking, the consultation, and the screening, the actual surgery, what happens immediately after, and my overall review for the surgery and the experience of undergoing LASIK. So I first want to do a brief history of my eyes for you guys to understand more on how I ended up really deciding to finally undergo the process. So my eyes prior to the procedure, my eye grade was 475 on my left eye and 250 plus 50 astigmatism on my right. So I actually have my old glasses over here, if you can see it, and I will show you guys. This is how thick my lens are. I will just do close-ups, but look at that. Like that's how thick my left lens is, and over here is my right lens. So not sure if you can see through it, but yeah, my eye grade was pretty high prior to the procedure. I've worn glasses since I was in high school, first year high school. It started at I think like 150 and then just went up from there. It really got high at around my mid-20s. It reached like the 400 range in my mid-20s. And then I started wearing contacts, I think senior year of high school on to college. I wore contacts regularly because I did go to a lot of events. I would go to a lot of parties. So I really look like a dork wearing glasses. I have my blue light ones here right now, and I will show you like, oh, it's dirty, but this is what I look like. And it's not a good look when you're out partying, like when you're clubbing, or yeah, if you're at like weddings. So I always just really used to use contacts. And then earlier this year, I got dry eyes. So my contacts started to become difficult to remove. And not only that, my dry eye syndrome was actually bad for me because it was giving me a hard time seeing even if I was wearing my glasses. So I had a stable eye grade, but because of my dry eyes, I couldn't see sometimes. So like I'd be wearing the correct prescription of glasses, but my eye grade would fluctuate, and sometimes I won't be able to see things properly even if I'm wearing my glasses because of the dry eyes. And so the dry eyes also actually contributed in one of the reasons why I ended up finally deciding to undergo LASIK. This happened about 2 months ago at a friend's wedding. So basically, I had dry eyes and my doctor prescribed me like this gel. So it's a prescription type eye gel for like very chronic dry eyes, and some of the things that the doctor told me to do was not wear contacts first. However, it's been already at least like 3 months since I last wore contacts after my consultation with the doctor. So I thought, because it was a friend's wedding and I don't like wearing eyeglasses out like at events, so I thought that it would finally be okay for me to wear contacts because it's been 3 months already and I've been regularly putting the gel. So I wore contacts for that wedding, but I had my eyeglasses with me just in case like it would start to feel dry, so I could change out of it like later during the day. I was a bridesmaid to that wedding, so we had an early start to the day. I already had my contacts in by around 9 a.m. and then we had the church wedding, and then everything was going okay until like towards the end of the ceremony. My boyfriend told me that my eyes were starting to get red already, which is a sign that like my eyes are already like drying up. And so I decided that by the time that we get to the reception, this was around 5 p.m. So imagine, my contacts are already on by 9 a.m. and at around 5 p.m., 5:30, we get to the reception. And so I decided that I was going to change out of my contacts into my glasses, and that's where the problem arose. This was in Shangri-La at Ministry of Crab, and it's pretty dark there. So I was in the restroom trying to remove my contacts, and it just wouldn't get out. I had all my lubricants with me, the prescribed gel that my doctor gave me to just really lubricate my eyes, and it wasn't coming off. Like, I was standing there maybe for about 20 minutes just trying to rub my eyes, trying to remove it, and it got to a point where I was already holding the actual contacts, but it wouldn't like come out. Like, it was literally glued to my eye, as in like I could feel, like, you know how you feel it, like I could like I was pinching the contacts, but it was like really glued, as in like it was going like this. Like I could hold it, but it wasn't coming off of my eye. So can you just imagine like how painful that was? Like, it just really wasn't coming off, and I was getting so scared. I eventually called for a nurse. Good thing we were at the hotel, so they were able to send a nurse down. I was so scared that we were going to have to go to the ER, because that happened to one of my friends too, where her contacts got stuck and she had to go to an ER and they had to tweezer it out. So the nurse came. We moved to a different spot because I was in the washroom initially. We moved to a different spot. They put like all these spotlights on me, like even the photographers of the wedding helped with their lights, because it was a dark venue, so they had to like really help with the spotlights and everything. And the nurse was trying to get it out, and I was like, and it still wouldn't come off. Like, he was also putting the lubricants that he had on, but it really wasn't coming off. And I told him maybe we can use tweezers, because that's what my friend did. That's what the doctor did to her when she was rushed to the ER. He used tweezers. So I was like, yeah, just use tweezers. I was just like really so worried, because I didn't want to have to go to the ER just to remove these contacts, because my boyfriend was actually a best man and he had a speech, and I was like, if we go to the ER, we're gonna miss the entire reception, and my boyfriend's not gonna be there to do a speech. So like, I didn't want to miss the reception basically, and you know, like it was gonna be a hassle for sure to be brought to the ER at that moment. So I was just like, oh my god, please, I don't want to have to go to the ER. And then so yeah, the nurse tried removing it even with a tweezer, and it wouldn't come off. So I was like getting so worried. But eventually, thank God, I think the lubricants finally worked. We just had to like put a ton of lubricants, as in like, but it took a really long time, so maybe a total of 30 minutes, including like when I was already in the washroom. So after a final like drop of lubricant, it finally came off, but I was the one who removed it already, because what I did was I managed to like rub it with the lubricant, and it finally came off. So we didn't actually have to tweezer it out anymore, although the nurse tried using tweezers initially. But yeah, thankfully I didn't have to go to the ER for this. But that was a very traumatizing experience for me. And so after that, I decided that I really needed to do something about it already. Honestly, my eye grade isn't that high yet where I felt like I needed to undergo LASIK already. Like 475, 250. I mean, I know some people with like in the 600 range for their eye grades. So I didn't feel necessary yet at that point. Like, I feel like if not for my dry eyes, I could have continued to wear contacts, because yeah, I didn't feel like it was a necessity yet. But because of that traumatizing experience, and I knew I was going to be attending more events in the future, and I didn't want to wear my glasses, I was just like, you know what, okay, let's just do it, let's just go on with the procedure, because yeah, I feel like it would really benefit me, because I still have a lot of events to go to. I wasn't willing to wear my glasses, and contacts obviously weren't an option anymore. So I finally decided to undergo LASIK. So now on to the actual procedure. After much research, I decided to go with Shinagawa here in Manila, because they seemed like the most popular and best, at least, at what they do. I'm sure there are a lot more clinics who are also really good at LASIK, but Shinagawa seemed to be the most popular out of all of them, and they had really good reviews online, so I decided to go with them. I've also had a few friends who went to Shinagawa for their LASIK, and it's been like 2 years, and their reviews have been really good as well. Also, they give discounted rates, and they have a bunch of promos throughout the year, so I was able to get a good discount on my surgery. All the details with regard to their clinic and the their contact info will be linked down below. So first talk about the booking process, the consultation, and the screening part. I initially inquired through the phone. I called their hotline and I asked if I could do the procedure in Makati. So that was the first phone call, and they scheduled me for a screening in Makati. But I got another phone call from one of their, I think, marketing department, and she told me that she suggests that I go to their BGC branch instead because my eye grade was a little high. So they did ask like some info during the call, and because my eye grade was 475, 250, she suggested that I just go to BGC instead because like the better machines are there, or at least the machines that are more recommended for higher grades. So I think in the other branches they have the more standard machines which are more for like grades like that are like 250 and below. So I'm just going to be inserting clips throughout this video so you guys can see like what the clinic looked like and everything, although I wasn't able to take videos anymore during the actual procedure because we couldn't bring any electronics in. So basically for the screening, I was sent to the BGC branch, and so on your first day of screening and consultation, they do tests on you. So you do like 5 tests. So first they use the machine just to do an initial check of your eye grade, and the next they do this pressure test. So they basically like blow some air into your eye. They do that like I think 3 times. That's another machine. And then the third test is the reading test. So it's basically like those tests that you do in optical shops where they make you read the letters, except this time it's all the letters C. So you just have to say if the C goes up or down, left or right, that kind of thing. And then the 4th and the 5th tests, they were in a dark room, so I actually don't know what these tests are called. Or remember, one of the tests is used to check how thick your cornea is, with the units being in microns. This test will be relevant later on when I tell my story. And then for the last test, I'm actually not sure what that one was. And then after those 5 tests, they dilate your eyes. So this one takes quite a while because they drop something in your eye to make it dilate. So they drop it like once every 5 minutes, 3 times. And so after they dilate your eyes, you actually have to return after an hour, and then you go back to take one last test. So for this one, I think this is one of the things that made the entire screening long because it's more of the waiting time that you have to undergo. So for my case, after the drops, I went to eat lunch with my boyfriend first. We just had late lunch, and then afterwards we went back to the clinic. However, during the dilation process, I actually couldn't see very well. So that's one thing to note. I had my boyfriend order everything for me because I couldn't read anything. I could still see and walk around, but everything was a blur. Anyway, after that, so went back to the clinic after an hour, and then they did a final test, and I was finally able to consult with a doctor. So during consultation, that's when you know if you pass the screening or not. And thankfully, I still passed the screening despite my underlying condition of dry eyes. So I was actually really scared that I might not pass because I already had dry eyes. But the doctor actually mentioned that the dry eyes doesn't really affect whether or not you would pass the screening. It's more about the corneal thickness of your eyes, which is actually what I mentioned earlier, the test where they measure the corneal thickness of your eyes in microns. So the doctor actually told me that as much as I did pass the screening and I was a candidate for LASIK, he actually recommended another procedure to go with it, which is something like TFL or thin film, something like that. So basically, the cornea is a thin film, and what that procedure is supposed to do is to make that thin film thicker. Because the thin film of your cornea is measured in microns, and as much as my cornea thickness passed the screening, it was closer to like the lower end of the range rather than the higher end of the range, which is why he recommended me to take another procedure to just back it up a little bit, just to make sure that you have like a lot of layer going on there. You know, I'm pretty sure that a doctor can describe this better, which is why if you're interested, you should really go to a consultation. But yeah, basically it was more of like the thickness of my cornea. But the additional procedure was like another expense, and it was still quite a hefty amount even if it was discounted. So I was like, I have to think about it first. But the procedure was actually just a recommendation. It was like, the doctor actually called it insurance for my eyes. So like, if you actually take the other procedure, your eyes would be insured. So even if later down the line, something like, he said that later down the line, if you decide to retake it again, your cornea will still be thick enough because you had the additional procedure to back up the thickness of your eyes. So I told the doctor that I would think about it. My surgery was scheduled the Monday after, so I had like a few days to think about whether or not I would take the additional procedure. So when I got home, I actually did my research, and the average range for LASIK candidates was around 500 microns to 550 microns, and my corneal thickness was only around like 520 microns. So any thickness below 500 microns, they don't recommend doing LASIK right away. They would really require the thin film process before taking the surgery. But because I was at 520, I was close to 500, but I still passed. So I was like, you know what, this is still in the range, and I didn't want to, number one, have to pay for an additional procedure, and number two, there was gonna be so much going on already. I didn't want like another procedure add to that, because that's stressful. It's my first like big surgery, so I didn't want to have to do like too much. So based on my research with the specs of my eye, I found that my corneal thickness still passes anyway, so I could actually do without the additional procedure. So for my LASIK procedure, they actually recommended me to do the Ultra LASIK, which is like the highest of all three. So there's three different kinds. There's the Z Prime, there's the Z Ultra, and the highest of that is the Ultra LASIK. So I think for the Z Prime and the Z Ultra, these are for people with like lower grades than 400, I guess. So, and also if your cornea is pretty thick, because the LASIK surgery basically really relies on how thick your cornea is. So if you have a pretty healthy cornea and you have like a lot of insurance back there, because they basically like tear your cornea, and then that's where they do the laser under it afterwards. So the thicker the better. So if you have a pretty thick cornea and your eye grade isn't very high yet, you might actually qualify for the lower procedures of LASIK instead of doing the Ultra. So I believe that the Ultra LASIK cuts thinner lines, I guess. It's more accurate, so that's why that's something that they really recommend those with higher grades and thinner corneas. For the prices of these three types of procedures, they can easily be Googled. Just Google Shinagawa LASIK prices, and also you can just give them a call to inquire. They're very helpful when it comes to that. But yeah, again, I mentioned that they do a lot of promos, and I honestly suggest that if you are considering doing LASIK, just wait for the promo, because they do a lot during the year, and you just have to have good timing so you can get your procedure at the discounted price. Now for the actual surgery, I actually went back twice. So my surgery was actually the Monday after my consultation, which was on Friday. So I had like around like 3 days before my surgery, and I was actually pretty excited. I'm gonna insert some clips, but I thought that that was gonna be the last day where I was gonna have like my glasses and my old eye grade. I was still vlogging it and everything. On the way to Shinagawa, we're walking into my surgery. And I was like scared because yeah, first time ever doing a surgery, but I was already in the lab gown, in the surgery gown. I had my hairnet on. They already made me wash my face. I already had the mask on. But on that day, my eyes were feeling particularly dry, and I kept on having to ask the nurses if they can double check my eye grade, because on the way to the clinic, like I would see the stoplights, and with my current eye grade, which they previously validated the Friday before, it was already blurry. So I was scared that they might use the old settings of my glasses. I was scared that they would use those settings to do the laser on me. And so right before the procedure, I kept on asking them if they could just do a recheck on my grade just to make sure. But at first they were like, no, it's fine, it should be fine. But then right before I entered the surgery room, like with my hairnet and everything, the doctor was like, wait, let's check your eyes. So he checked my eye again, and it was very, very dry. And so he said, we can't do the surgery today. He prescribed me new eye drops. It's called Hyalin, and it's for dry eyes. I still take it up to now. And he told me to come back a week after. So I religiously took the eye drops, and a week later, I was finally allowed to undergo the procedure. This video is getting long, so I am actually going to have to cut it short. In my next video, I'm going to be talking about the actual LASIK procedure, all the steps that you have to undergo, and I'm going to be describing the feeling of actually being under the machines. I'm going to be talking about the entire experience, what I felt after, and my overall review of the procedure, if it's something that I would recommend or not. I hope that this video was informative for you guys. If I already have part part 2 uploaded, I will just link it down below. As much as I want to have everything in just one video, I feel like I talk too much, so it will really have to be cut into 2. So you will have to wait for the next video for the rest of the information about the procedure. I promise that I will discuss everything else in detail on that next video. If you found this video helpful, I would really appreciate it if you hit that like button down below to help the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to connect with me in my socials, it's at TrishDLF. I'll see you guys soon in my next video. Bye!